Hey everyone, welcome back. Arc Trading here. Heading into week 2 of January 2024, another green week, which is nice. Using AP's scalping model. So hit about 10 out of 12 this week. There was a mistake on one of my trades. I'm going to go over that as well. But kind of just dive into it. So starting off with Monday, January 8th, we had this massive uptrend day. Held tight until we had a valid setup, so we did not get our first setup until 10:53 Eastern time. So marking out the standard deviations over here, we did hold this -2, -2.5 right here. Went a little bit above the range, went a little bit below, but overall market structure was definitely bullish, and then started to pass through that right there. We did end up in this -4 right here, in which we had our first scalp model on the 30 seconds. So as you can see over here, we did have this first break of structure. Main point behind this was the most recent 1 minute fair value gap was right down here. So we figured it was going to retest into it, which it did. Did not hit full TP, unfortunately. It was a TP break even. And just to kind of go over it, so we had this break of structure right here, right there. Break structure. We had your golden pocket right there. Second candle tagged in. Took about 2 points of heat. Not bad at all. Went down, hit 6 points, and hit about 2 ticks from 12 points. And then just rallied back up until eventually just came back down. And how I've been doing it recently with this week is instead of taking one contract off at 6 points, 12 points, 18 points, I am doing break even plus 2 ticks at 6 points and then taking off the whole thing at 12 points, if that makes sense. Okay. And I'm not saying that that's what you should do. It's been working better for me. But cool thing about this model is you could dabble with the risk management, see what works best for you. Okay, so that was already just a break even, a little bit green, obviously, because there's plus 2 ticks over there. Retracing that 1 minute fair value gap and then pushed up. Okay, no equal highs either. So overall clean setup, especially coming off that -4 standard deviation over there. And now going to the second trade on the 15 seconds, we did have this 1 minute. There's a 1 minute bearish fair value gap right here. We had this close through, reprice, went down, and then eventually we did have this 1 minute bullish fair value gap, and then inverse this 1 minute bearish right over here. Okay. So as soon as we popped through it, inversed it, there was this break of structure right here on the 15 seconds. As you can see here, no equal lows. So I would say there's an A+ setup over here. Got tagged in right there. Went a little bit above, went about 8.5 points, and I went back down to just break even right here. So nothing wrong with this one. Eventually market structure, like I said, was bullish. If it did not hit those 6 points break even, it would have definitely gone for those, either if you're aiming for 12 or 18 points right there. So nothing wrong with the setup. It's just obviously volatility is back too. So it's going to happen where it's going to hit your break even a little bit quicker, even though you are right in that market structure. Now going to Tuesday, January 9th, this is where the first loss came in. This was purely my mistake. We were kind of ranging between these two 1 minute fair value gaps. So you have your bearish one right down here and a bullish one right up here. So anytime we're trapped between those two, you should wait until one of these gets disrespected or gets inversed, and then you'll have a clearer direction on where the market is heading. Especially on today, it was kind of ranging from opening. So this was my mistake. There was this break of structure right here on the 15 seconds, right over here. Okay, so we have this break of structure, no equal lows. However, this move right here on the 1 minute did not close above this bullish fair value gap right here. So when that happens, that should be invalidated. And I jumped the gun a little bit too quick on this one, entered right over here, and it just went straight down for a stop. So just to show that having that validity in this model is very important. That's what comes with the high win rate, because this was already a telltale sign that when it did not close over the 1 minute bullish fair value gap, you should not be entering that trade. Okay, so 100% my mistake over there. Now moving on to the second trade that AP and I took. So as soon as this displaced down through this bullish fair value gap and started disrespecting it, we did have this short setup right here. So there was the break of structure on the 15 seconds right over there. Displacement through, entry over here. This did only go 6 points until hit break even with +2 ticks on my end, which is good because that would have saved you, because if it did not hit your break even, that would have been a full stop right there. Overall, good trade, nothing wrong with it. My opinion, it was A plus because we did eventually drop down to a certain direction, and we still had this resting liquidity below, so I figured it was going to push through one more time before it ranged higher. Now moving on to the third trade for the day, this was a loss as well. So we did have this 30-second break of structure right here. Now from here, I did decide that the only structure break that I am going to consider is when the middle candle is the outlier. So something like this, for example, where you do have a valid swing point or a swing low. Okay, so even though this, I would say, is still valid to some degree, I thought it was a really good setup. It was aligned with market structure. We did inverse a 1 minute bullish fair value gap right here. I'm sorry, 1 minute bearish fair value gap right here. We had that break of structure, 15-second fair value gap, tapped us in right over here, and then went down, stopped us out by 2.5, just for it to kind of push all the way through right there. But other than that, not really. I wouldn't say it was A plus due to the structure break. However, overall structure was on the bullish side, so it wasn't the worst setup to take in my opinion. All right, now heading into Wednesday, January 10th, I was just 1 for 1 on this one. This was a very nice setup. I was really confident in this one. And usually the ones that are going to have the highest probability are the ones that are going to be pretty much screaming at you. You know, this just had the telltale signs that this was going to work out. So we did have this 1 minute bearish fair value gap right here. Even though we have these equal highs, as you can see with this displacement, repriced into the 1 minute, and then we had this 15-second break right here. No immediate equal highs. Chances are this was going to be saved for later. So we had this break of structure right here on the 15-second golden pocket, and literally took no drawdown on this. I was surprised I even got filled because it hit right to the tick at 16,827.75 and just went straight down for a full TP right there. So overall, in my opinion, this was an A plus setup. Not because it worked out, but the fact that the 1 minute was perfectly aligned, no open 15-second bearish fair value gaps. So overall, picture perfect on this one. Now moving on to Thursday, January 11th. So as soon as market opened, we did see this setup right here. We did inverse this bullish fair value gap right here. So as soon as we pushed through, I was keeping an eye on the 1 minute, closed below it. Now volatility was definitely higher because of CPI on Thursday, so entered right here and got immediately stopped out. Overall direction, you know, was correct, but of course, with that kind of volatility, usually we wait until after 9:40. but it was in our opinion with APNI, it was definitely a very good setup. Just didn't work, and that's where the probabilities are going to be taken into consideration. We didn't have any equal highs, no open 15-second fair value gaps up top. It was just time and place at that point. Now moving on to the second trade, we did have both a 30-second and a 15-second setup at the same exact level. We did open up this tiny bearish fair value gap right here. I did not see these equal highs till later, but that is the equal highs on the 1 minute. If you check, that was the equal highs that opened up, that formed that fair value gap. So overall structure, obviously, we were kind of just melting down over here. Let's use the 15-second, for example. We had the breaker structure right here. And then we had your golden pocket right over here. So entry was there. It did immediately hit 6 points and then went to break even just for it to reprice that 1 minute bearish fair value gap and then continued lower. So direction was correct, but it just needed to reprice. I would have definitely taken a setup after that reprice going down, but unfortunately no valid setups on that end. Now moving on to the third trade. I really like this one. Surprised it didn't work. It was just break even, even though our direction was correct. So went down. We had a 1 minute bearish fair value gap that inversed and formed the 1 minute bullish fair value gap. So the next fair value gap was actually right up here. So there was definitely enough room for if it was going to reprice. So we had this breaker structure right here on the 15 seconds going over here. I mean, I guess you could say you could use that one, but I prefer an actual swing point. Had entry coming down here, went 6 points, and then dropped again. So it would have been break even if it wasn't for those 6 points, just for it to run up again. But overall, really good setup on this. So moving on to the fourth trade, this was A plus. We did have this 1 minute bullish fair value gap that inversed, so closed below it. We had this breaker structure on the 30 seconds right here. Market structure was definitely still bullish at this time too, so it did align with our overall bias. You had a break structure right here, 30-second fair value gap, entry, and this literally lasted, I believe, 20 seconds for it to hit target. So absolutely A plus setup, no equal highs whatsoever, no open 15-second fair value gaps up top, inversed, a bullish fair value gap, aligned with structure. This is exactly what you should be looking for. Now moving on to the fifth trade in the morning. So we did form this 1 minute bearish fair value gap, repriced into, but going off the 15 seconds right here, we had a breaker structure. Okay, so reprice off the bearish, breaker structure right there, 15-second fair value gap, entry. I was really surprised. I mean, it did go 12 points, but it went 6 points, stopped at a break even, and then went straight for those 12 points right there. Okay, so overall A plus on this too. Just didn't go for the full TP by the time it went for break even, but 10 out of 10 times I will take this trade. That was for the morning session, and then moving on to the PM session. So typically I do not trade the PM session, but I just happened to be on that day and I just saw this and it just screamed at me. So structure was definitely bullish for the day. We did have this 1 minute bearish fair value gap inverse, so closed right back above it. And then from here we had fair value gap with the golden pocket entry, and this just went up within a minute for full points right here. There was this one right next to it, pretty much exact setup aside from the inversion, but structure was still definitely on the bullish side. I did not take this. I know AP took this one. I was already +2 for the day, so I was good with walking away. But this was a very nice one as well. So we had this break of structure right over here on the 15-second. Okay, tapped into that fair value gap, pushed back up. So that was just like back-to-back longs right there. Still aligning with structure, which is nice. So A plus on these two. Great trades overall. So moving on to Friday, today, January 12th. We had this really nice pre-market setup. I was about like a minute, 2 minute late, hopping on the computers. So just to kind of showcase this one right here, just as a really good example, we did have this 1 minute bullish fair value gap open up right here. And then we had this break of structure. This is on 30-second. We did have this break of structure. And it tapped to the T. Now, it's a question of if you get filled or not, but it did technically tap it and then went straight up for those 12 points. So another nice trade. No open 15-second fair value gap, because as long as the most recent, 30-second, if you're trading on both the 15 and 30-second, as long as the most recent fair value gap has been repriced, you don't need to worry about that. But if this was open, for example, right here, then I will not take it. But the fact that this got repriced and continued to move higher, just shows that bullish PD arrays are being respected. So it's still in that current trend and that current structure. Just wanted to showcase that. Very nice setup, but did not take it. Now moving on to the AM session. So 1-for-1 today. Just wanted to finish the week strong. So took a little bit getting the first trade, pretty much an hour after market was open. But this is a game of patience. I'm gonna try my best just waiting for those A plus setups, and you're going to get those every day. I've noticed like this last like 5-6 weeks doing this model, pretty much every day you're getting at least one A plus setup. So I was saying in Discord today while AP and I were streaming, is that A plus setup, that A setup is just around the corner. So as long as you stay patient and wait for that, it's going to come eventually. And if it doesn't for that day, then that's just going to be an anomaly. There's always tomorrow. Okay, so we had this great setup right here. This 1 minute fair value gap is actually a bearish that was inversed, pushed back through, and then closed back above. So it just gave a sign that it wasn't respecting bearish PD arrays at that time, even though we were downtrending since the morning. And then from here on the 30-second, we had this break of structure. As you can see here, no equal lows. Okay, we have relative equal lows right here, but no equal lows. Break of structure, fair value gap, pushed into that golden pocket right there, and within a minute, just hit full target. So from there, I was done for the week. Just paper traded a couple times right after, but other than that, overall solid week. Another green week. I think this is like week 6 in a row. I was up a little bit over 1% for the week, so can't complain at all. We did, AP and I did start our VIP Discord, so we are live streaming Monday through Friday at like 9:20 Eastern time. So feel free to check that out. Any questions, message us on Discord or Twitter. But thanks for joining. Subscribe, like, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Later.